What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams here at the distance. I'm going to do a quick prediction for the upcoming bout in about 20-30 minutes between Hammer Hank Lundy and David Diaz. It's going to be a lightweight bout. I don't think it's an eliminator or anything, so I think it's going to be a 10-round fight. It's going to put together the prospect and contender Hammer Hank Lundy against the former champion David Diaz. Pretty much when I look at this fight, I look at all of the dimensions to the game of Hammer and Hank Lundy, and quite the same dimensions to the game, the one two-dimensional type game that David Diaz has. David Diaz still makes the same mistakes that he made, early in his career against fighters like Kendall Holt, even Eric Morales and Manny Pacquiao. He still fights somewhat the same, even with that year-long layoff that he took after the Pacquiao fight. He still fights the same. He does seem to be a step or two slower than he was, about 4 or 5 years ago. He seems to be a step or two slower. But then again, David Diaz is quite old. He did fight in the '96 Olympic team, I believe as a welterweight, if I'm not mistaken, a light welterweight. One of those weights, I don't remember what I read on the internet one time. This was a long time ago when I read about it. But hey, that's too much information. Let's talk about the fight at hand. David Diaz could fight quite well from a mid-range. Southpaw fighter. He's a southpaw fighter. Fights well from mid-range. Not too technical. Inside, he lands the left hook very well. He knows how to land the left hook inside. Knows how to move in one direction. Basically, he's very one-directional. Basically, his game relies on a southpaw, decent southpaw jab that he will flicker out, and getting inside and hitting his opponent with the left hook. He stands straight up. His legs are kind of close together when he fights. So pretty much, it's going to be easy for Hammer Hank Lundy to be able to counter him. David Diaz leaves himself open for numerous counter punches because Hammer Hank is a fighter that could fight as a switch hitter. He can fight from a left-handed and a right-handed stance. He can move around the ring. He can play the counter puncher, but also he can take the lead. And in this fight against David Diaz, he could either take the lead or he could be the counter puncher, because David Diaz's defense is very leaky to where Hammer Hank has the precision to land at will against him, because he has very good hand speed. He's very good. He has very good upper body movement to where he finds his openings using his upper body movement, and he has quick hands. He has quick hands, and like I said, going from being able to move from both directions is going to be very essential to Hammer and Hank in this fight. And why do I keep calling him Hammer and Hank? I don't know, because we all know who the real Hammer and Hank is. Anyway, that's besides the point. But Hammer and Hank, I did it again. Did that on purpose anyway. But Lundy, pretty much in this fight, what he wants to do is he does want to play the counter puncher, because there's going to be a lot of openings for him in this fight, and a lot of opportunities to be able to find openings off the counter. Whether he's countering over David Diaz's jab, whether he's using David Diaz's aggression against him, Hank Lundy has the hand speed, and he does have the precision to pretty much land at will, whether it's inside or outside. Whatever he wants to fight, he can fight pretty much in two dimensions in this fight, landing first or countering him. David Diaz in this one, I think David Diaz is going to have to be dependent on one shot, and one shot very late in the fight. Something about David Diaz's style that could possibly be a nightmare is the fact that he can be very precise with the left hook in the fight, and Hank Lundy has trouble from time to time protecting himself from the hook. And I've seen it in numerous fights to where he's had trouble protecting himself from the hook. And if David Diaz has enough leverage behind his hook, then he could possibly hurt Lundy with that one shot. And that's pretty much David Diaz's bread and butter punch, is the left hook. If he's able to land it late, I'm sure he's not going to be able to land it in the beginning, and I know that Lundy's going to be slippery. But also with the fight against Molina, when he was doing all the work and he got tired, I think he does want to kind of give some rounds to Lundy to kind of play as somewhat of a decoy, maybe 2 to 3 rounds, but go to the body subtly in these rounds. Just go inside to the body. Look for the shots to the solar plexus. Look for that shot and try to land it numerous times to take some of the energy away from Lundy late. And but then later in the fight, try to pour some more pressure on. Use the jab to be able to get inside and try to find the place for that left hook to land. And that's really the only way I could tell you I can analyze David Diaz style. He's not going to be able to stand outside and box against Lundy unless he's able to land first and stand on the outside and have Lundy not land on him, because Lundy is a faster opponent. And the fact that David Diaz has been quite inactive and has not faced the best opponents in the last year since like Humberto Soto, I'm sure his timing is going to be off, and he probably hasn't faced a fighter with this kind of hand speed since Pac. So, anyways, you could probably tell I'm going to go with Hammer and Hank Lundy in this fight. One thing I can tell you with Hammer and Hank's style, Hank Lundy likes to throw the right hand. David Diaz has trouble defending himself from any kind of right hand, whether it's the right cross, the right hook, the straight right hand, the short straight right hand, even a right jab. He has trouble defending himself from any kind of right hand. And also, he's very easy to be countered. So I'm going to go with Hammer and Hank Lundy in this fight I'm going to go with a decision for Hammer and Hank. But also I wouldn't even be surprised if there's a headbutt in this one. Just with Hank's style where he kind of lunges around and uses his upper body to find, certain places for his shots and find openings. But I'm going to go with Hammer and Hank Lundy by a unanimous decision. So anyway, guys, I'm out of here. Enjoy the fights. Distance. Oh yeah, and be sure to hit me up on Twitter, Julian W. the Great. Talk about interesting stuff. Not really. Peace.